It's incredible to meet you. My name is Jess. I'm the CEO of Quendo. So it's for
Wow.
education for doctors. It's for research into this insidious disease. It affects 1 in 7. It's far more common than asthma and diabetes. And it's so complex. And yeah, 1 in 7.
So having n- the short version is I had what was probably a mild version that was fixed by a laparoscopy a
Okay.
year after my daughter was born, right? So it was simple enough that it could be fixed that way. And the pain was extraordinary.
Hmm.
Like, holy moly. And 1 in 7. And it's not talked about.
It's not talked about. That's what we're here.
Nobody's ever brought it up to me. Do you know how many
Mm.
thousands of women I've interacted with and no one has ever brought it up to me?
It's a silent condition, and women suffer in silence. They think that their symptoms are normal. And it's only in the last few years have really, with people with platforms, started to talk about it. And women are suffering alone. Women are suffering in their relationships and their workplaces. And they don't know that there's another way to do it. And so we're trying to crack open that conversation and then
Wow.
surround them with a community that will help them. And we give them free healthcare. We give them free services. We give them access to a free physio, a free dietitian, and we give them the education because they don't know what they don't know. And we're
Right.
trying to educate them so that they can make better decisions, educate their partners so that they know how to support an incurable disease. There is no cure for endometriosis. And how do they have a family? How do they manage relationships? How do they start a relationship? So they're having some enormously difficult conversations um, themselves.
Wow.
So thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey. And you're quite right. Some people with endometriosis will have a laparoscopy and they might have a mild or there's 4 stages. And
Hmm.
it may be really well managed with a laparoscopy and maybe some hormonal therapies, or if they can go and have a baby, that isn't a cure, but it can really help. And for other
Wow.
women, it invades their kidneys, their lungs. Yeah. So it's a whole body condition, and the severities change from woman to woman. Um, and
So can I stop you a moment because now I have to put this on my YouTube channel?
so
So I think this is going to be a little going back and forth.
we can do
Uh,
that.
because if thank you, because if I'm ignorant about this, oh my gosh. So so what is the definition or the description of endometriosis? Could we start with that? So then if people are like, what? That yes, they might find out that they have it and thought it was something else. But could you start there? Is that okay?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
currently, endometriosis is defined where tissue that is similar to the lining of the uterus, so it's not the same, it's a similar type of tissue, is found in
Okay.
other parts of the body. So it can be in the pelvic cavity, it can be around the bowel, the bladder, the uterus, the ovaries, and it can be
Yeah.
found in other organs. And as of a couple of years ago, endometriosis was found in every organ of the body. So it can travel throughout our body. And what it does, it sets up camp wherever the lesions find themselves. And we
Yeah.
start to see that disease grow and progress wherever it is. Now, people who have a period or pelvic pain that cannot be managed with a Panadol or a Nurofen, ibuprofen, or paracetamol and a heat pack, they are your basic symptoms that if you cannot manage well with those treatments, then we need to get some
Yes.
help. And endometriosis,
So
then
that would be, just to slow you down a second. This is going differently than you probably planned. Um, So if menstrual pain can't be managed with those kinds of medications and a heat pack, right? If it can't be managed, when you say managed, like that the level of pain is taken down to like a 3 or something, right?
Correct.
Not it's not disappeared, it's taken down. Okay, because I was trying to think, what would I think of as managed? Oh, about a 3 on the pain scale. And so if that can't happen, that is a strong indicator.
Absolutely.
That would be a good way to relate. It's a strong indicator that it may be endometriosis, and
Absolutely.
you should have it checked out.
Yes,
Go
you
look.
should. Go looking and start researching. And there are symptoms that a lot of women are living with, and they may think that that's quite normal, but that's not normal. And what we see with endometriosis is over cycles, those symptoms become worse and worse. So it may be that over time you can manage with a heat pack or some medication, some pain relief. And over
Yeah.
time, it progressively becomes more symptomatic. So they might start to have painful sex. They might start to have pain on when they're ovulating or before and after a period. And so it progresses because our body is responding to something that's not quite normal, and it's doing the right thing. Our body is doing the right thing. It's telling us there are alarm bells going off. But again,
Mm,
women put that down to it's just a part of being a woman, and it's
right,
absolutely not.
right. Yeah, I okay. Well, I live out loud. So I'm wondering about my kids. Um, I have a tilted uterus towards the
Yes,
back.
yes.
So I didn't have menstrual cramps.
Mm.
I had backaches, but
Yes,
I didn't know, I didn't talk to my mom about it. So I never, it never occurred to me to have some pain medication. It never occurred to me that I needed it. It never occurred to me that I would take it. And so something I found out belatedly is that because of that, it never occurred to me to offer my daughter's pain medication. It just never dawned on me. And 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 that was hurtful to them.
absolutely.
Like I didn't care, but I had no idea. And it wasn't until, and it probably would have gone for a lot longer, except for I believe in sex. I believe in the impact of sex on couples. And so when I started having this terrible pain during intercourse, when my daughter was probably about 6 months old, I think, my youngest, when that started happening, I was at first I don't know, did I pull something? Did I pull a muscle? Is that why? Right. So what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And it wasn't until it persisted and I had a normal checkup that I went and spoke up about it. And then all this stuff happened. And, luckily for me, it was that simple. It was just basically like one string that kept getting yanked and yanked and yanked. And they did what they did. And as far as I know, it never expanded or came back or did whatever it could have done. And so that's why I'm asking these questions because my ignorance is not small. And okay, so if it can't be managed and they can rewind and listen to the names of all the medications because I don't recognize almost any of them. Plus, you called it a heat pack, a pain pack.
Yeah, just a wheat pack. So you pop in the microwave. And just
Right,
to go to your
right.
point around the back pain, so that's a part
Yeah,
of the pelvis. And so
right.
your pelvis wraps around the entire area, and back pain is a significant symptom. So when I say pelvic pain, it may
Yes.
be back pain. It may be what we see sciatic nerve pain. So there's pain that shoots down your legs.
Right.
And so
Sciatica. But
sciatic
it's
nerve,
not, it's not bone nerve related. It's an
Well, they're
Okay.
impacted. They're
Right.
impacted because
Right. It's caused by,
that's right.
okay.
And
Yeah.
endometriosis themselves, if you think about little cherry lesions in the body, so there's little cherry lesions in the body that
What do
set
you
up.
mean by, what do you mean by cherry lesions?
So cherry red. So if you think about
Ah,
like a lesion, a circle that can be in the body, and
okay.
they're quite red, and that's what an endometriosis lesion looks like when they go in and have the surgery. And so they're looking for those. But what you can find though is when they've been left for a long time or when it's been undiagnosed, what happens is we call them scar tissue or adhesions. And they
Mm-hmm.
look
That's
like,
fine. What?
yeah, they look like a spider web. And if you imagine our ovaries, they want to be frolicking in that pelvis. They want to be free and moving around.
Wow.
But when you have endometriosis and when you have those lesions, imagine a spider web, and that spider has wrapped those organs around with a really
Right.
fine material, which are lesions,
Right.
adhesions, and scar tissue. And the ovaries cannot move. They're stuck there. And so they cannot
Wow.
do what they're normally supposed to do. You might have pulling on the bladder, pulling on the bowel, which when you do have intercourse, that deep penetration can be incredibly painful because it's
Wow.
being pulled. And they can go in, they can free the organs, they can free the
Mhm.
ovaries. And for a lot of people, that can provide enormous amounts of relief. And they're
Right.
also removing those lesions. And I like to give people the visual that endometriosis lesions are like a weed in the ground. Yeah. So
You
they're
got to
like,
get it out by the root.
that's right. You've got to dig
Yes.
it out because if we just, a lot of people burn the top off and then that root
Wow.
is still there. So we need to remove all of that. And so that helps for the disease to not grow back or not grow back as quickly. So there's
Well, may I just for a moment that because I've gardened a lot and I pay a lot of attention to the persistence of life and that not getting the root because because it wants to persist. So if it can't thrive here, is that one of the things that causes it to go find a better place to express itself?
it can
Like
it can move in
in
other
the
parts.
tonsil, in a
Yeah,
what?
it can move into other parts of the body. Or if you
Right.
don't get the root, it'll just in the garden, it'll just keep coming back up. And it's driven
Again.
by hormones, it's driven by stresses in our bodies.
Mhm.
There's a 60% genetic component. So if someone has endometriosis, there's a 60% chance of their daughters having endometriosis. It is genetic. Uh,
Wow.
and then the other parts are environmental, which we put down to the environment we live in, stresses in the body, hormonal issues in the body, inflammation in the body.
Inflammation. And
Mm.
you brought up earlier on, and I wanted to stop you. I'm glad I didn't. You brought up a nutritional component for controlling, alleviating, preventing. Could you expand on that?
Absolutely. So with endometriosis, a lot of people will have what we call the endo belly. They'll have an enormous bloating in their belly, and often they can look 6 months pregnant. And there's
Right.
so much inflammation going on in the body. And just 3 weeks ago, there was a great study that found a link between inflamed or heightened inflammation and endometriosis. And so, with our diet, when we're eating foods that can be cause inflammation in the body, that can just
Right.
add. And whilst we have the lesions in the body, we also have the symptoms. So
Wow.
you can manage symptoms with a good team around you through diet, so eating low inflammatory foods, and that will
Right.
look really different for everyone. So
Right.
someone may be able to tolerate something like dairy, whereas another person cannot. So we go through a process of tracking what is causing a bloating, what is causing maybe
Mhm.
some additional bowel motions, what is causing people to block up with their bowel motions, and start
Mhm.
tracking what is impacting you. And you can start to learn what foods trigger those symptoms or what do not. For me
Right.
personally, I found that if I eat more than 3 strawberries, I will have a huge endo flare. which is
Wow.
seen to be a really healthy food, but for some people it isn't. And so that's why we never promote an endo diet or
Yes.
a way of eating specifically because our bodies are so wonderfully different and women's bodies are incredibly complex and everyone needs to really learn what works for them and what doesn't work for them.
Okay, so question, and I know where we want to get to is the intersection of my work and yours, and how women can communicate and how and be in partnership with the men in their life for whom this can be very mysterious. And I've been thinking about what's key in interacting with men in situations like this, what matters to them the most. And so I know we're going to get there. And so is endometriosis exclusively a female disease because of estrogen, the high levels of estrogen we have in our bodies? It feeds
So
on that.
99.9% yes. There are some very rare cases where some men in the world have had endometriosis. And we
Uh-huh.
also have a wonderful transgender population who is also struggling with this disease as well. So it is a predominantly female condition. And we
Mhm.
also just acknowledge that there are some men who have had confirmed endometriosis, and we do have a transgender community. And knowing that, they are particularly, there are a handful of cases for sure, but it is mostly impacting women or those who identify as women. And we also need our allies and we need our partners and our men and our workforce. Um, I think labeling it a woman's condition adds to the load that women carry when they're carrying
Right.
and managing this issue. And so we try and bring in our what we call allies to start
Right.
talking about it, learning about it, and building what we call a toolbox. So women will have a toolbox to manage a chronic condition like this, and we
Hmm.
encourage them to also share with their partners. I'm the eldest of four. My brother, he is 22, and he
Hmm.
has diagnosed so many of his guy friends, girlfriends, because of the symptoms. So he's an ally for the next
Wow.
generation. And
That's amazing.
so many men they think so differently. We as women, we just put up with it, don't we? And we just keep going. As you say so well, feed us and tell us to sit down, and we will keep going if we're not pulled in. And so
Right.
what men can do is, and we encourage men, and I've learnt this from your work, is they think differently. They're a different set of eyes, and they can tell this is happening again and again.
Right.
Kindly, hey, let's sit down and let's have a think about this. Or hold on a minute,
Right.
I'm getting the heat pack for you every month and it's becoming worse and worse.
Right.
Having conversations is so tricky.
Well, and it's tricky because men are, I mean, any adjective diminishes it. Any adverb diminishes it. So if I say very, extremely, extraordinarily, let's just go with men are protective. Now, are women protective? Yes, and in a different way. And so in the you've probably heard me talk about what I think is the hierarchy of instincts of procreate, then protect, then provide. And it's actually a kind of spiral when it's working well. And if they're encountering something that is hurting their loved one, and there's nothing they can do to fix it, it's diminishing, disempowering, defeating. It can take all the wind out of their sails, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to because they're impact oriented. So if they can't fix it, they're not the the medical professional specialists who can diagnose it and prescribe and carry out the best fix for it, they need another way to have an impact that they are clear the difference that it makes. They're acknowledged for their contribution. They're appreciated for what they do. And they're not held responsible for what they can't affect, right? And I mean, any behavior you want to continue needs acknowledgement, which is all about facts, right? And then it needs appreciation, which is literally is it a feeling of appreciation, and it's expressed, as you know, in the appreciation equation in different currencies. So men are so amazing because of how they have to win. Like the inability to win, literally their instincts will shut down the expenditure of energy. So if they have I can't win, period, they become inert. The instinct does that to them. But if they can make a meaningful difference that they're acknowledged and appreciated for, they see the difference, and being in partnership with them and their part and how they can make a difference. Honey, the thing you can do that would make the biggest difference for me is, and men are so fascinated because I think as women, we're more conditioned by babies, where what works with a baby might work for about 2 weeks and then the baby changes. And if you keep doing the thing that worked, it's not going to work. You got to find a new thing and a new thing and a new thing and a new thing. So we're built to keep finding the new way to work with this child. And then a month later, I have a different child, right? And the willingness to abandon what no longer works, try something new that may or may not work, try 10 different things, right? We're built that way. Men, not so much built that way. When they find something that works, and so it makes a difference, it's acknowledged and it's appreciated. And my late husband would say, they'll do it until the cows come home. They will just do it, do it, do it. And if they know, for example, that heating pad at 2 minutes and 22 seconds is perfect for her and it has an instant relief, you'll find a man he's just bringing the heating pad. You don't have to ask anymore. He sees she had that look on her face, and honey, here, lie down here. That's where you're most comfortable. Here's a heating pad. Okay, here's the medications. Here's and like, do you want a book or do you want me to keep you company? And I mean, it's one of the things I adore about them. They will just, whatever works, they don't have to like it. They don't have to think it's fun. They don't have to find it interesting, but they will keep doing it. If there's clarity and acknowledgement and appreciation, they'll keep doing it. But it's
And
on us to provide the clarity and then the acknowledgement and appreciation.
it goes to your visual of men being hairy women. And
They're not.
they're not. And when people are managing a chronic condition, the communication piece is lost. And there's a lot of expectation and a lot of, well, I'm living with this all the time. How come you don't know what to do?
Sorry. I'm sorry, Jess. I have to interrupt you. When you say the communication piece is lost, that's as if it existed already, but it mostly doesn't exist in the first place.
Fair.
Yes, I mean, I was there. I was there in the 70s and 80s especially. I was in my 20s when this rise of, what we've got to do, relationships, we've got to communicate. We've got to communicate. Well, what happened? Men and women started complaining to each other even more. Because we're supposed to communicate. I am communicating. But yeah, right. So it's and then why I recommended Lux to you is because literally I assert there's a prohibition in human beings. Don't ask and don't tell. The reason being that both asking and telling reveals weaknesses. And we are built to conceal weaknesses unless the revelation of that weakness will get you something like compassion, empathy, sympathy, light treatment, right? So then we'll reveal weakness. Mostly that's how what women do to other women. They'll reveal weakness so that she doesn't hate me and leave me out to die. Yay, yay. But mostly we don't ask because that would reveal the weakness that I don't already know. And men get in trouble for not already knowing. If you were watching me closely, you'd already know. So them asking, just asking what do you want for your birthday can get a man in such deep trouble. Haven't you been hearing the hints I've been dropping? You must not really love me. Huh? What? I'm single focused. I was just when did you drop a hint, right? So we don't want to reveal that we don't already know, so we don't ask. And also, what if we don't like the answer? If we ask, does that mean we have to do it? And and then we don't tell because that would be revealing a weakness. And especially for men, to them, all needs are weaknesses. All needs, right? Like if they were going to build Superman, he would have no vulnerability to kryptonite. None whatsoever. They hold themselves to account for having no vulnerability, no needs. They're supposed to function on fumes, not need food, not need sleep, not need affection, not need intimacy, not need, they're not supposed to need anything. So they're even worse than women about asking for what they need. And we're already terrible because we're afraid of being needy. We're afraid of what you'll think of me needing that. I already think there's something wrong with me that I needed in the first place. And now for both men and women, there's this problem of, but do I deserve it? Have I earned this from you? Do I have a right to demand that you do this for me? And mostly we won't speak up until we think we have the right to demand. And demanding is the wrong way to ask. It'll blow everything up, a demand. It actually creates a resistance to providing. So I'm sorry, I just had to stop the communication.
Absolutely. We need to stop the communication to learn how to communicate. And absolutely.
Yeah,
And
but it's not, yeah, it's already in almost across the board, not already working, not already existing before then this thing shows up that trying to convey it to someone whose body doesn't do anything like that, right? And you can't see it. Seems mysterious. Oh, it's all in your head. I imagine that happens way too often. And then, of course, can I just keep going for a moment?
absolutely.
Well, then there's the other side of, since intimacy is so important in a relationship, part of nurturing the usness as well as all the individual benefits, that and last thing a man wants to do is hurt his beloved. So if, will that hurt you? I'm never going to do it again. Okay, well, could we try and see at what point does it hurt and not go deeper than that? Or this is, we're, no, intimacy is not going to disappear from our life. So we got to come up with some alternatives that don't cause pain, do cause pleasure, do connect us. Oh, so many things have to be worked around.
If someone is listening to this and they are often probably hearing a lot of this for the very first time, do you have any tools or suggestions of where they could start to better communicate with their partner around this?
Yes, and I want to tell you the others, not like what's on the men's side that we're just as bad at communicating about. I think it'll help to
Balance.
balance it. That's the right word. So we work on communication everywhere. And you know, from the Queen's Code, there's actually how to tell a man what you need and how to figure out what you need in the first place. And then in our Understanding Women online course, which I think the version you've listened to, if I'm right, if it's on Audible, that's the old initial version where women are only represented as gatherers, when most women experience hunting more than gathering these days. And we can be flipped from one to the other, and they're different mental states, and they require different hormones. So understanding women, what's great about understanding women is, in order to teach men to understand women, I had to first prove to them that I understood them. So I had to in that course, I'm translating women into a man's world, which any woman watching it can find out what men don't know about you by the shocked looks on the men's faces from the videos. And what was so surprising is that most women, they also don't know what I'm teaching about themselves and the different kinds of communication, right? And what's great about Lux, which is why I want everybody to start there, it's the foundation I created in 2020, is that, you know, I think like an engineer, so I break everything down. And communication is really not just speaking, it's speaking and listening. And the listening is more important than the speaking. Now, there's so much to improve in our speaking, like speaking to be seen, right? But there's also, we have these default ways of listening that are literally a question at the top of our mind that is responding to and filtering what the other person is saying. Like, what do I know about this? What do I think about this? Do I agree with that? Is that true for me? What do I want to say? Right? Those are normal filters. And I'm imagining this gets away in the way a lot. It already gets in the way a lot for everybody. But when trying to communicate about endometriosis and how a man is already listening, like the main default is what's the point and what's the problem? So I can diagnose it and fix it for you, and I'll tell you how to fix it, right? That's a main default. But what do I know about that? What do I think about that? Do I agree with that? Are also normal. Women tend to be more like, what does this have to do with me? Or if the person's upset, a man will be like, what's the problem? A woman will be, what do you need from me? And we think those are good filters. We think they're good filters. We think they serve, but they filter out so much critical information. And I always listen to my kids. What do you need from me? What do you need from me? That's a good mom, right? And then once I asked my daughter, so what do you need from me? And she blew up. I have two of them. She said, I I don't need anything from you. I want you to know me. I was not listening to know her.
Mm.
And so then that's where I started switching ways of what I call listening to learn, right? Or listening to see, like, what's true for her? What does she care about her? Or what does he care about? What matters to him? What's important to him, right? There's all these other better questions to listen with. And until we fix the listening side, most of the speaking can't make a difference. It's literally bounces off. And this is sort of a fun trick, although it can also be annoying. For most people, the question they're listening with causes a response from their own mind that's so interesting to them or compelling to them that they interrupt the person who's speaking to tell them that thing. And so you can tell because they go, well, what I know about that is, well, they were listening. What do I know about that? Well, what I want to say about that, okay, corresponds. That's not true for me. Well, they were listening. Is that true for me? Do you know if you ever wonder why we can say so much and feel unheard, this is before we even have something we're interacting with. So you want to say anything about that before I talk about the men part that we also teach in understanding women that can get you also into this partnership space?
I just think that everything we are always and a human netball. I don't know if you have netball in the States, but in netball, it's a female dominated sport. And we're always saying, here if you need, here if you need. And
Uh,
those terms are ingrained in us through generations. Uh,
mhm.
it's so fascinating when you and in our on our support line, we have people who are listening to other stories, and we tell them it's not to listen for you to interrupt, it's for you to listen to understand. And I
Mm.
think one of the best things you've ever taught is, can you help me understand if you do have a question? And um, it also there's the feedback loop that you've spoken about before, where just hold on, just zip the lip for a minute, let them keep speaking, or when you say in one of your
Imaginary duct tape.
yes, hold it for 20 seconds. I cannot tell you how
30,
oh, is it
30.
30 seconds? Oh, I've been only doing 20. But when you are asking my partner or another male specifically, or my 2.5-year-old son a question, and you're asking them a question or just listening to what they say. And before piling on all of the questions or the requests from my behalf, holding
Right.
that space. And you can be so curious. I have a sign behind me that says stay curious to
I
remind
see it.
me, yeah, to hold the phone, put the duct tape on, and you can start to watch them think. And you can start to see in their minds, they're not finished yet. Um,
Right.
so before I give them a multi-choice question, I will just hold the phone. It's so
Yes.
fascinating.
Good for you. Good for you. Ah, it's I've been at this for 34 years. Endlessly fascinating. And so to have that balance, um, one of the things that women can't understand about men, it would be called erectile dysfunction, right? It'd be ED. And we literally don't understand how erections work. We don't understand what causes them. And we're imprinted that if a man is attracted to a woman, he'll get hard. Can I say it like that? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're just imprinted. If you're attracted to me, then that will happen. And so one of the things that would be really normal in a couple where the woman has endometriosis that makes intercourse painful is that he'll then have a problem with erections because the element that gets all messed up in the interaction is the element of desire. And we teach this in understanding women that the biggest turn on for men is her desire for him. And the biggest turn on to her that he doesn't know is his desire for her. But we're if we're worried, we don't want to make him feel bad because he couldn't get hard, so I'm not going to express desire. You would, I mean, we write about this in the Queen's Code, right? It's going to be a feeble invitation that doesn't express desire, so it doesn't cause. And then if he's worried about hurting her, he's going to suppress his desire for her. He's going to hide his need. He's going to hide his need and hide his desire and wait for her to initiate, not knowing that his desire for her is going to make her want him.
Mm.
So this whole dynamic falls apart in ordinary relationships where you don't have painful instinct intercourse for the woman. And so, oh gosh, I'll just embarrass myself. Um, I'm older now, right? I'm older. And when Greg died almost 6 years ago, and I found myself a widow. I was 58 years old. I wasn't done with having a sex life. I'd had one for almost 30 years, regular. That can imprint you, right? And but I found that men my age or older than me, which is I was attracted to men that were older than me, there were men who'd literally signed off sex. No, I'm done with that. No, I'm not I want affection, I want companionship. I'm not looking for that. And and then finding out that because of this expectation that attraction is supposed to be the source of all erections, and most people don't know that it's also the expression of desire. And then most people don't know that as men get older, they tend to need to be touched more. They need a direct stimulation. They need to be touched in order to produce what we're used to the 20-year-olds producing on a look, a thought, to wake up in the morning, soldier at
Mm.
attention. And so we don't know. He thinks it's all on him to do, that he's supposed to produce one of these. She thinks it's all on her to do by being so attractive while suppressing her desire because she doesn't want him to feel bad when he can't do it. And so what I ended up coming to, I call it the EP. So instead of the ED, we have the EP. It's the erection partnership. And so when my boyfriend had a stent put in part of his heart, and I was reading all the consequences of the medication he would be on, and that was a common side effect of these medications was erectile dysfunction, I was like, no, we're not going there. This is a partnership. It's not all his responsibility. It's not all my responsibility. This is a partnership. We produce boners together. and, and God bless Dan, because he was all in the communication about it and the play about it, and literally I don't have to suppress my desire because I know we can make one of those whenever we decide. We can make one of those. And it's just so important. And if as a couple you think we're going to find a way, we're going to find a way to interact and engage and have a sex life that doesn't hurt and that's nobody's fault, that we build it together, we create it together, we're going to find our own way.
Where does appreciation come into that?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so we can start with appreciation is fuel. It's fuel. And often we ask men for fires without having given them any fuel. Like we didn't appreciate them for the last thing they did, or we don't remind them how much we appreciate the thing we're about to ask, which is by expressing appreciation, it's something travels, right? It's not just blah, blah, thank you, blah, blah. It's an energetic arrival over in the other person's space, and it lifts us. It literally gives us energy. And oh man, it's one of the most important things, hence the appreciation equation, which even though it's old and the recording isn't great, it's priceless. Um, and there's the element of appreciation, as you know, because you've listened to it, of finding out what someone's currency is.
Yeah.
So yes, it's so important. And it was funny because I was training people in the appreciation equation, right? Like Kylie, our guides, right? These new group of people that we have, and they're all over the world. This is wonderful. But I had just gotten back from Canada when I was teaching it, and I was trying to wash my motorhome, and I was putting quarters in the slot because the credit card thing wasn't working. I was putting quarters in and quarters in. This one quarter, like I just needed one more quarter, and I'm putting this quarter in, and I'm putting this quarter in, and it keeps sticking, spitting it out and spitting it out and spitting it out. And finally, I look at it, and it was a Canadian loonie, which is just
Wrong quarter.
and appreciation is like that. You can be off by like a 16th of an inch, and it's not going to ring the bell. And we have to find out what other people's currencies are. If we don't feel appreciated, I've seen it so many times. Someone is like, "Oh yeah, I'm great at appreciation," and then the people around them don't feel appreciated because they're giving in their own currency instead of giving in the other person's currency. And so finding out, that's why there's that whole sheet, right? Where
Yeah.
did you fill out the sheet? Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's a personal side and there's a work side because the currencies are different. And to rate how much does that mean to you, right? Is that a 1 or is that a 4, right? And then the other side of is how hard is it to express appreciation that way? And when you know that your currency of appreciation is really uncomfortable for your partner and they're doing it anyway, it's worth
Mind-blowing.
even more to
Yeah.
know that it's hard and they're doing it anyway. And then for it to land and make a difference, then it's worth it for them to be uncomfortable. And most things that we're uncomfortable with, if we keep doing them, this all reorganizes and it gets less and less uncomfortable. But appreciation always is going to have risk in it. So
Mm.
someone might use the word um, vulnerable or exposed is like women, men language. So there's always a risk in it because it is a feeling that you're transmitting, and someone could, right? They could be lousy at receiving, which is quite normal. And then also something to watch out for is when a currency of appreciation lands in a woman's world, will tend to have a big expression, right? So however they said thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. And I had so much fun shopping for that. And I remembered this and blah, 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 right?
The Meadow Report.
What?
The
The
Meadow
meta,
Report.
be a kind of meta report, exactly. And in understanding men, we teach women to recognize when the women are acknowledging the panel of men, what how you'll know that what you said landed. And I demonstrate it. And it's like, okay, well, if that appreciation mattered to them, what you'll see is something like this.
Mm.
They're like, what? I'm like, you want to see it again? Okay. And this is because what we feel here, like in terms of happiness, men feel here. So that happy is them concealing how much that meant to them because they're built to do that. They're warriors. They got to conceal everything. So we have to know, because often they won't even tell us what their currencies are because they think they don't know. So we have to watch and learn and see the thing that does that. It's
Can I
huge. Yes,
it's
please.
so can I say that when I had my partner, we've been together 14 years this year. When I
Mm,
did that with him, it was so appreciation equation. It was so difficult for him to do that. It was such an ask. It was
mm,
fascinating. He took that on like a project, and he was so serious in making sure that he was expressing this. It really surprised me, and I thought you'll just sit down at 5 o'clock on a Friday and tick and flick and go through it, and you'll give it back to me, and now I'll know. And
Yes.
absolutely
Yeah.
not. It took quite some time, and I was watching him wrestle with each of the questions. It was huge. There's so many layers to it.
Yes. Well, in wanting to give you quality information, because that's a high value for men, quality, actionable information, maybe being worried to you for now to know that a currency that means a lot to him and he already knows it's hard for you and doesn't want you to feel bad, right? Or inadequate in any way. And and just and the revelation that and the fear. I can imagine it wasn't a high for him, but it can be the fear that this will be used against me. Once
Yes.
she knows how I need to be appreciated, then I'm ripe for manipulation. And I have seen people use appreciation as a manipulation.
Mm.
Find out what people's currencies are, and then be like an automaton of providing it insincerely.
Mm.
And oh, that's just,
Gross. Gross.
yes, it's gross. So it's really important to interact with appreciation as something priceless, as something to be cherished, treasured, protected, always interact with fully. Very, very important. I'm
Mm.
glad you asked.
Absolutely. And it was fascinating to also see that what I appreciated most was his -5. And what he appreciated most was almost my -5. And what a real mirror to show up in a relationship. And we've been together 14 years. We have 2 kids. I've had endless multiple endosurgeries, multiple challenges. And so in our 14th year, we do this and realize, wow, what an ask for him to show me appreciation in a way that makes me feel seen and heard and loved, and vice
Mm,
versa. It was such a
wow.
mirror. It was such a mirror. We
Wow.
we spoke a little earlier about Meadow reports, just briefly. Could you
Yes.
honestly, and it does very much talk to the gathering aspect, but I
Mhm.
think it really resonates with people. And often people with endometriosis and needing to talk to health professionals, again, the concept of diffuse awareness and single focus, it can be a game changer, because when we are going up to health professionals, we're sharing our Meadow report, we're sharing all of the things to a health
Mhm.
professional who can be so single focused, and they're looking for patterns and symptoms, and they're trained that way. And as an
Yes.
industry, that's what they're doing. It can be so difficult to show up in that relationship with your health professional.
Yes.
So, do you have any suggestions on how we can help to integrate our Meadow reports when we're speaking with health professionals, and some practical ways that the information can be interconnected and help to be relevant in those cross divides?
Well, I, the problem is that the single focused brain, which women can absolutely be there, screens out everything that seems irrelevant to what you're committed to. And the device to the diffuse awareness brain, everything is relevant. So so the single focus person is just like, oh God, like I am being flooded with all these details that have nothing to do with what I need to know. And the diffuse awareness person is desperately trying to be understood so that what this person does will be effective.
And what if they miss this part? And what if they miss this section? And
Uh-huh.
all of,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh. And what about that part? And I think uh again, it's got to be a partnership where we understand the other person isn't intentionally misbehaving, isn't intentionally aggravating us, isn't intentionally disregarding us. We're both trying to get what we need here. And I think, for example, if a woman's initially going, right, to she's got this doctor, she's finally taking this on, that first find a friend or one of you amazing people at Quendo that will listen to her tell the whole story. Tell me the whole story, all the details, all the twinges and twitches and pains, and it could have been and maybe and miss that, but that could have been. Tell it all to me. Okay, now that I've heard it all, let's figure out and make a list of what your health professional really needs to know. that they will consider actionable if they can do something about, it will ring all their bells for relevancy. Let's take everything you've told me and organizing into a finite list of these are the major points. Is that something you guys could provide?
It's what we do. We hold debrief sessions. We hold because there is therapy in validation. There is therapy in holding space. And people say to us, there is so much healing in that. People say to us, you've asked me questions no doctor or no health professional has ever asked before. And in fact, we don't ask them questions. We just let them talk. And
Yes.
they tell us all of the things. And then we work out, we have a list. We work out, well, what we actually say to them, what are your goals? Let's kind of
Mm,
work out some expectations here because those individuals are employing their healthcare team. So we need to work out what your expectations are as the individual. What are your goals? What do you want to get
right.
out of this? And then
Mm,
what are your deal breakers for that health professional so that we have a
mhm,
value alignment as well. And it's totally okay that you might go and see a couple of different health professionals until you find your one who aligns with your values. It may be your treatment choice. It may be how you show up in the world. It may be religious. It may be other reasons. And then
right.
once we get to that point, so we go through values, goals, deal breakers, what are your expectations? We list them out. And then we go through, well, what are some of your symptoms? Let's talk about the ones that impacting your life the most. So we put a few exclamation points. Let's talk
Right.
about and reorder it in terms of priority. And then we work out, well, who in our healthcare team could we help with that? But they're going with this this very thought out, here's me on a paper, here's my goals, here's my expectations. Does that work for you, health professional? Can you help me? Or are my expectations too high? Or do I need to reconsider them? And
Yes.
that means, and hopefully that means that that patient or that person is showing up with that health professional, communicating a little better than here's my
Mhm.
problem. What are you gonna do about it? Which is very
Right.
one-sided.
Right.
That person spends 15 minutes with that health professional or 45 minutes, and that's one part of their life. But what about
Yeah.
the other parts? So that's how we approach it.
Mm, cool.
Great. Alison, tick of approval. It can be so difficult to really advocate for yourself in what is predominantly a male dominated space. Do you have any suggestions within the health professional? Do you have any suggestions what we could do if we feel as though we're not being heard, or not being listened to?
Mm, wow. I mean, I have ideas that come to mind, some of which that could be very confronting to a health professional. Like, okay, so I've said a lot. Could you read back to me what you wrote down so I know what you heard?
Incredible.
You might get a no, I'm not going to do that. You might get a you're holding, what are you holding me to account? Or you might get a wow, you want to verify that I got this right? Could we clarify if I didn't? I mean, so many health professionals. I have a dear, dear friend. She's an amazing, amazing doctor. And she was working on me. And I said, Connie, you're not a do me doctor. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, so many people go to doctors like, okay, this is my problem, do me. And I'm on her table and she's having me stretch out my arm while she massages the part of my back she's about to do this major thing to. And okay, now stretch this way, reach back, stretch this way. Like I have an active part in this whole treatment. Like, you are not a do me doctor. and 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 for doctors, it's fix me, do me, I don't. Give me a pill and then I'll be all right. I mean, that is so defeating,
Yes.
right? That they don't find there isn't a space for partnership. So if you offer, like, I want to partner about this, so I want to make sure that I didn't leave out something that I think is really important. And would you read me back your notes? Would you be willing to do that? It's not a test of you, it's a test of me, right?
Did
That's
I?
important when you do it. Could you, I'd like to verify that I communicated well. Would you tell me back what you heard? And so we call it clarify and verify and clarify. Like it's just they if someone will not engage in verifying and clarifying, just get off the train, because the instinct is decide and provide. Decide what somebody needs. Both men and women do this. Even young people do this. Decide what somebody needs, make a plan to give it to them, and then expect the appreciation that they think they should get for everything that they put into giving that to you. But they never verified that you want it, that you also think you need this. Decide and provide is it's one of the biggest things that we struggle with. We think we know better than other people. And there's something you might want to listen to. It's called Loving More by Sacrificing Less. And I don't know if it's on Audible. It may just be on our website. And our website has everything I've produced. And Audible only has what I produced before 2003. So they're
I've got some
evergreen.
homework.
What?
I've got some more homework to do. I love it.
Yeah. So loving more by sacrificing less is, and this would be great for women with endometriosis, because we already all need to manage our time and energy, and we think anticipation is love. Like that's a sign of love, that you're anticipating. And we spend all this energy on it, and then we try to extract appreciation from people for things they didn't want and they can't give it. And so loving more by sacrificing less, because we have this thing we have a recording called A Great Ask and a Beyond, which is a
Mm.
methodical way to approach what you need, right? And either establish that you either get what you need, or you find that they're unwilling or unable. And now you're free instead of endless hope, right? Yeah, I take it you listened to that one. Have you listened
No,
to
no,
that? Okay,
I know.
good.
Yeah, I know about
You
that
know
one.
it.
Yes.
You know about that one. Okay, so loving more by sacrificing less teaches a great give. So we've got a great ask and a great give. And it's where you, before you act, you tell the other person, there's something I've observed that I think this. I'd like to, I think this is the problem, and I have a solution to propose for you, or it seems like you need this, and there's something I'd like to do about it. So I'd like to tell you what I think it is and what it would take for me to provide for it, the time, money, energy that it would take, and then find out from you, do you want me to do that? And knowing that I'm willing to spend that much time, money, and energy to do something that makes a difference for you, would you have me spend it on something else?
Mm.
It, it's teenagers who, well, you don't appreciate that I did this, that, and the other, right? All the sacrifice. And they'll respond, well, if you'd asked me, I'd have told you not to. Well, that's true for every human being. If you'd asked me, I'm likely to have told you not to. And so the respect in the great give, checking before you do anything, that you're then going to try to elicit this appreciation. And what it also teaches is that when we sacrifice something, like we don't have plenty of money, we don't have plenty of time, we don't have plenty of energy, when we sacrifice ourselves, we're not overflowing, we sacrifice ourselves to provide for another, the need for appreciation becomes exponential, such that most things can't elicit that. So it's a really important part of the dynamic.
It's gosh, you're blowing my mind as always. We don't, and you've said this earlier, we don't know how to ask. We don't know what we want. But so if someone is sitting in that space and listening to this, it's just often a lot of people are just learning a lot of these
Mm.
concepts and ideas for the very first time. It's actually my mother-in-law and my stepmother-in-law who I mentioned your name, and they knew all about your work. But anyone of my generation, who's Alison Armstrong? What is this? What is this? It's like they're tapping or opening up to this pot of gold. Um,
Yes.
and so if someone's just listening to what we're talking about, um, how would you encourage them to get started? What would you hope that they take away, and what's something that they could do today?
Mm. Oh boy. Um, well, I think people learn best when they're following their own nose. And you just made me think of something that I've never thought of before. This is crazy. That, when you think of stuff, you're like, duh.
Mm.
So on our website, AlisonArmstrong.com, there is a sample of 30 minutes from the beginning of Understanding Women. And it's called Central to Understanding Women. And we we put it up so that everybody can learn that. All you do is put your email address in. It's called a guest account, and you get to watch it. And it and you can see how much the men's minds are blown by that.
Yes.
Um, but so what just occurred to me was, why don't we have a sample of everything? Like, if I want people to follow their own light, their own passion, their own perk is up, well, why don't we put audio in video segments so that we're not depending on them being perked up by the graphic and the words on the page when so few people are.
Mm.
I've only been at this for 30 years.
You're
That
welcome.
we
What a great
first
idea.
worked out 30 years ago. A sample of everything, a clip of everything. So meanwhile, I try to name things in ways that the name is a promise. That's how I relate to the words. They are a promise. They're not a hook, they're a promise. And so besides our whole curriculum that goes in a particular order, and there's some variation between it, like there's almost 72 hours of videos just in the understanding level.
Mm.
And that's when I recommend that people start with Lux. And in fact, starting June 5th, I'm going to be leading what I call a journey. So it's the essentials journey. And we're going to start with Lux and get together once a week to work on what they've been paying attention to and do exercises. So we get to like bring the workshop
Yeah.
into breakout groups and interact, because that it
It's the
yeah,
theory
in
and the
favor of
practical.
implementation. Yeah, yeah. So we're doing that first with Lux, and then there's a week break, and then 4 weeks in a row with Understanding Women, and then a week's breaks, and then 4 weeks with Understanding Men. And I've never done this before. I'm ecstatic about doing it. People who've already done these courses will participate to take it deeper. People who've never done it will get to benefit by the kinds of questions that people who know more ask. Like the quality of your questions, because of how much you've delved into, is so much higher than someone, so much deeper, so much more relevant than someone who's just found out, oh, she'd be a good person to interview. So whether it's something like connecting through conflict, I
Mm.
can imagine that being a really good place for many of your people to start. And the first session of that is called Do You Disconnect with Conflict? And
Mm.
it talks about why both men and women almost always do.
Mm.
And someone said, well, if someone's conflict avoidant, and I was like, you mean they're human? so that's one. If someone is single and worried about, like, okay, how do I navigate? Well, most people don't know how to navigate it period without an added thing like endometriosis or an STD or something, a learning disability or whatever. We don't add to that, it seems all messed up, but no, it's already messed up. So that would be dating with distinctions that starts with, are you dating in the dark? And most people are. They think it works in ways that it doesn't. Um, there's also a lot of us have wounds from our childhood, and that gets in the way of what we think we deserve, or um, it's called empowered parenting. It
Yes.
should be really, you did it, you did it. Oh,
Yes.
good for you. I
Oh,
love it. Yeah, it's really, it could transform your childhood because you
yes.
understand why your parents couldn't give you what you needed.
And that's
And
so,
we'll all end up with the question, what's wrong with me? Yes.
but also such respect for where they were and
Mhm.
can really shift what can feel quite a blaming in energy.
Yes.
Yes, and again, it's understanding, and they did the best that they could with what they had. It's, and again, people who have, it's so translatable to not only in parenting, but in leading teams and
Mhm.
acknowledging
Uh,
that people sh are showing up and the
yes.
workplace, in the schoolyard, in the shopping center, with all
Mhm.
of these different things. Uh, and it brings that front of mind. It's, yeah, extraordinary.
Yay. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Um, have you done your hidden dominant drivers?
Yes, I did that with Kylie,
We
and
did it with Kylie.
I did it with
Oh, yes,
Kylie.
you told me that at the beginning, and your why is the same as mine.
Yeah, well, it was so difficult to do.
Mhm.
It was so difficult to do. And
It's why we that's why we trained guides for that, because it's
I
so
was,
hard.
yes, I was so adamant. My hidden driver is expression. And I was so
Mhm.
adamant that it wasn't that. She told me, she
That's
told me
relief.
it would be because I was so hard against it. And I remember telling her in the work that I do in advocating for women in a stigmatized, silent, isolating condition, when
Mhm.
I when we get a win, it's just a sense
Mhm.
of relief. She said, "Why do you do what you do?" And all
Mm,
I could say to her was relief, relief. There's a relief. It's a,
mm.
oh, okay, we got that one moment.
Yes.
And it was difficult. We had many conversations. I think she brought it back to one of your groups, and you said, "Well, that's expression." And she brought it back to me, and I still had a tantrum and said, "No, no, Alison is wrong." And then about a week later, I went, "Oh, okay, no, she's actually right." And we unpacked it even more. But quite
Well,
fascinating how hard I was and how much of a blocker I had to that.
yes. Well, it's sweet because I was the same way.
Mm.
Um, so can I unpack it a little for people who are
Please
listening?
do.
So I'm mostly known for my work in gender.
Mm.
And because I started out studying men, I wanted to know how I was bringing out the worst in them. My friend had been called, a colleague and friend had been called a frog farmer right
Yes,
next to me.
yes.
And, what happens to Kimberly in the Queen's Code, that happened to me.
Mm.
And, but I didn't have a Claudia to go to. So the question popped into my head, what if men are responding to women? So so for a very long time, I was studying men and then teaching women what I'd found out about them that was so different than how they're known in the world. And then in that process, because men wanted to talk to me about women all the time, I started learning about who women are for men and how we could be what brings out the best in them in a way that brings out the best in us. That it's truly a win-win. Like, for example, the most attractive quality in a woman is self-confidence. That is not hurtful to a woman. You don't have to second your stomach for that. You don't have to, you don't have to change for that, right? It's faith in yourself. Find faith in any part of yourself, right? So, so it was men and women for a really long time. And then I started finding things that were not male female, that were not masculine feminine, that were not estrogen testosterone. They weren't that. And so when I moved into the course it's called Understanding Love and Commitment, when we started teaching it, it's like it came full circle. Like we found out how different men and women are, but then when it comes to family and commitment and union, we're so much more alike. What we need and want is so much more the same. Often not expressed the same way, but really in the heart of it, it's amazing. So then I was going down the path of, in all these various ways, I'll save it, but just trying to reverse engineer, why do people do what they do? What if there's a good reason for that? What if there's a good reason for that? And so it's called your hidden dominant drivers. But first, what you identify are your dominant drivers. And dominant drivers aren't hidden, they're visible. They can be seen in what you spend your money on, what you spend your time on, what you spend your energy on. It's in your calendar and it's in your bank account. And those are the dominant drivers. Those are the things we're compelled to do. We're compelled to do it. We've got to do it. So an artist, for example, compelled to express, compelled to physicalize something that is emotional or spiritual, for example. One of my dear friends, the 99 Names of God, she has 99 paintings of the 99 Names of God, including gold leaf, and they're spectacular, right? But she's compelled to express. She didn't need anybody to see them for that to be complete. Now, people thought who I was, I build together with people I enjoy. You can see me do it from dawn to dark, build together with people I enjoy. And whenever I talk about these different things, I would say I don't know that much about expressing. That's like an artist, a writer's kind of thing. And so it was years after these distinctions originated that we realized, oh, the what you do isn't hidden. It's the dominant compulsions. And we've identified 6, right? Is it to know? Is it to grow? Is it to build? Is it to share? Is it to express? Or is it to enjoy? Right? And they can be combinations, like my build together with people I enjoy. And that's the visible part. But, and I'm so glad you got to it, what's invisible is, and Kylie would have talked about it because she just loves this, what's invisible is the why. Why? Why do we build? Why do we want to be together with people all the time? Why do we do things that are fun all the time? What is this? And it's interesting because the hidden one is usually, it's one of the others that's being ignored. You can't see it. I don't spend much time doing that. And when I saw that expressing is my why, and in other words, as you know, your why is the source of your fulfillment. You can be compelled to do and do and do and be completely unfulfilled. You can be tremendously successful and completely unfulfilled if it doesn't produce your why. And so what we got to see was, once you know what your why is, and this was immediate when I discovered it, that what I built together with these people I enjoy was always gauged by what I get to express and to whom, and is it new, and is it needed, and is it deeper or broader or bigger or whatever than anything I've ever done before. And it's one of the reasons why I said yes to your request. I've never done that. I've never expressed our work in anything close to a context like this. Yeah, I want to help.
Thank you so
So,
much.
oh, you're welcome. You're absolutely welcome.
Oh,
And so it's the thing when people want me to do something that is I've already done. Like I literally have had people tell me, I will pay you any amount of money to teach me this material. And there is no amount of money can give me to have me be willing to spend my life on something that I recorded on video in 2017 and it still stands. So you go watch the videos, then you can get on the phone with me and ask questions, and something will be drawn out of me by your question that will benefit everyone that's listening. That I do for 11, I think 11 and a half hours a month. Because it's, and I'm always all filled up by it. It's so satisfying because it is the why. I'm expressing, it's being heard, it's being acted upon.
Mm.
So not all expressing it's when you're done, you're done. No, it's why. So get such a kick out of what you've been saying, because my expression doesn't change anything until the person who hears it or reads it or listens to it acts upon it.
And in
It
so
doesn't make a difference. Yeah, go ahead.
in so many ways, it from it just it blows my mind. I'm sorry, but it from a 2.5-year-old, my son, 2.5 years old,
Yes,
showing up to parent him as a little page boy who wants to help all the time,
yes,
to
yes.
speaking with the Australian Prime Minister and educating him about these issues and calling on him to make change in where he can do so in power and then day to day it's so translatable and it enriches your relationships. It helps you express more. It helps me to um to do my work in a way that is not feeling like you're have your head up against a brick wall all the time, which is what I think we feel like before we learn all of these lessons. And it's honestly feels like you open a door and we go, well, why on earth are we just hearing about this? Because it's so shocking.
People were saying that in 1995, 96, 97. Like, where were you 20 years ago? Elementary school? They don't say that anymore.
And that's why it's a part of my, it is a part of my mission, my personal mission to gift people your lessons because it, people will do so much good. People will do so much good. People will do so much kindness and show up to things differently and learn about themselves, learn about their shadows, learn about, um, yeah, how to do things in this world. And so thank you for gifting your time. Um, when you said yes, we sent you an email because I have my whole team doing the appreciation equation, my beautiful
Yeah.
volunteers. I've I've gifted the Queen's Code to so many people. Anyone who will listen to me, I'll talk to them about it. And then I said to the team, oh, can you imagine if Alison would come on and do a talk in the endometriosis space? And Ian, my partner, he said, oh, I don't know, I don't know. And I said, let's just give it a go. And so when you responded, or Leslie responded, crying, so exciting, and just having space to learn more from you in this specific space of endometriosis, which affects, like we've said, 1 in 7, and they have relationships and they have partners and families. So, oh, just the biggest thanks.
You're so welcome. Thank you. I had no idea I would learn so much or it would be so fun.
Well, thank you, Alison. Thank you for joining us and sharing so freely and so authentically your lessons that you have collected across thousands of conversations and hours of teachings. You continue to be curious and learn, and I just invite anyone listening to take that into their day, to be curious and start with heading on to alisonarmstrong.com and starting to listening to Understanding Women because you will listen to that and think, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh my goodness, this is just not me. And you will be seen in a way. And I think that will start your journey in tapping and opening up more. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And thank you for doing what you do and doing it so well. And oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you exist. And Now it's another place I have to visit when I finally get myself to Australia.
Please, please do. Please do. We would welcome you.